Okay, we'll record. So today I said we're going to mess with Visual Studio Code. So we've got Visual Studio Code, just search for it. On your computer. It won't be on any of your servers. So you start it up, you can actually, when you first start it up, I think everybody sit at your computers, but they have updates every month. So there's a cogwheel in the lower left that you click on and check for updates. I updated mine in the earlier class, so there's no updates. Otherwise, I would have went ahead and said update. And after the update ran, it would have, nope, that's not what I wanted to click on. That's what I wanted to click on. It would have popped up a little square like in this area to say, hey, you want to update now? And you click update now and it would shut it down and open it back up after the install was done.
I got this. Release notes 166.
Did yours need an update?
I put the check for updates instead. Updates failed.
Oh, okay. And it showed you the release notes. That's okay. Also, most of ours have Powershell plugin installed. Powershell. The latest version right now is December of 2021. Sometimes that has to be clicked to install an update. I did have one computer that after launching a PowerShell screen, there was another little update bubble down here. It said, hey, you need to update the plugin. So they had to click the update and restart. They'd also had like a yes or no question here in the terminal area. Do you really want to update? It's something called package manager, and that has to be done. So everything has to be at the right version. The versions have to work together. You can't have versions that are too far off. Otherwise, Visual Studio Code fails to function properly. Your systems are probably all up to date. And yes, just go to File, New. And you open up a blank document. You can start with selecting a language. There's a little click here. Hey, select language. Look at all the different languages. Once you glance through them, we're finding PowerShell. So that's what we're doing today. So I got a pretty long list. And this is the editor basically out of Visual Studio. Visual Studio comes with compilers and libraries and stuff to actually make an entire program. This right here is just the stripped out editor, but so it's great for scripting. Yes, like PowerShell. Show you something else. They've got color themes. I've got mine on light theme just because in the past, the projector screen, everybody said the projector screen showed up better on light than dark theme. The cogwheel allows you to click on color theme or Control K. Can also bring up color theme. The best ones to choose is the ones that have default. Right now, they've got a light plus and a dark plus that has default out beside it. Best to only choose those two. Any of the other themes might mess with the syntax highlighting. It's like we picked PowerShell. I mean, just going to put the PowerShell commands and stuff in a different color than than other text. So if you don't use one of the default themes, it'll mess up the highlighting. I believe right now the only two themes are dark plus and light plus that actually have default. So stick with one of those if you like light or dark. Most people like dark theme, especially in the darker room that you're working in. Darker theme's a lot easier on the eyes. Clear is a command in PowerShell, and it works. I think we've used it towards the beginning of the semester. I showed you a little bit about PowerShell. Here's the thing though, when the tap in clear, the Visual Studio Code says, hey, you got a problem. Does yours say you have a problem?
Mine doesn't have little, mine does not. Mine just, it's just clear. I just, no red line.
And yours doesn't say problem. Interesting. And did you choose PowerShell as the highlighting?
Pretty sure I did.
So we can do one other thing. We can go ahead and save the file. Go ahead and save and make sure it comes up as PowerShell. Yep. Yep. So let's go ahead and save it as, well, yeah, clear. Why not? Just sure. Save. Now does it highlight it? Oh, yours is starting PowerShell down here in the bottom.
Oh, okay. So
Let me remote control the notifications. Okay, you had some notifications. You had this little bell down here. You have an older version of package management known to cause issues. So PowerShell is not working. So I had to click this little bell icon. Yes.
I didn't even notice that.
So that little bell is really hard to see.
Okay, well, it's just as wrong, because I did have PowerShell.
Yeah, I installed PowerShell, but
I wasn't installed, I don't know why. It was. It's wrong.
So I am wondering, it's got this little thing flashing. It's trying to install it. Here we go. It's trying to run this command right here. And you got to answer a yes right there on your screen. Notice how to click on terminal. So go ahead and hit yes and enter. If you can, Lucas. I noticed you have a problem pop up. I don't see it yellowed up there, but once all the package management stuff is updated, you should be getting the error, or not an error, just a little light bulb going, hey, there's a better way to do this.
yeah, I noticed that.
Cool. So let me try something else. Let's check these other notifications, just clicking on them and expanding them out. Please restart PowerShell extension. So probably, I know it's now it's underlined up there.
Oh, yeah.
Probably still better, just go ahead and close out and reopen Visual Studio Code. We'll go back to view only mode. So you restart Visual Studio. It's also just right there on your desktop. Little icon symbol. So now we see it clear. It's the same as mine. That's what it was. So yeah, the little bell icon. Yeah. Let you know that you had, it's so hidden. Okay, so problems. Yeah, and click the problem tab. Hey, clears an alias of ClearHost. And go back to terminal. You can also got a little light bulb up here. If I click on it, it gives me the option to fix the potentially problematic situation. It sees aliases as bad because if you created your own alias, it's not just looking at Microsoft built aliases, it's also trying to detect one that you create. And your code won't be portable because custom created aliases probably aren't on somebody else's machine. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit F5. So mine runs. It was not throwing my debugger out before. See, I got this little extra bar right here. It's debugger. I can close this extra side panel that popped out by clicking on the one that's highlighted, the white one there. It collapses it back down. So Control F5 tells it don't pop that debugger out. So if your debugger pops out when you hit F5, Control F5 tells it not to. I'll get annoyed with screen real estate being taken up by things I don't really need. So that's why I click them off and see as much of the typing as possible. Okay. Let's look at some stuff with PowerShell. Let's get execution policy. And you can, of course, Control F5 that to make it run. And you can tab complete stuff. You're typing in the list, the top list is what you want to finish typing. You can use tab to autocomplete. Speeds up, definitely speeds up your typing. So execution policy, remote signed. If I download any scripts or try to run scripts from a network share, they have to have a signature. It has to be signed with the certificate, and then I have to have a root certificate stored into my computer to verify that, hey, yeah, this is legit code. I need to run it. That's pretty rare if you're coding your own stuff to go ahead and sign your PowerShell code each time you make a change. That can be annoying. You can change the execution policy to bypass or ignore, but it's a script. If you do that, then malicious scripts could run without any question. It helps set execution policy. You can also look at this online, just Googling set execution policy. There are several execution policy settings. There's all signed, bypass, default, remote signed, restricted, undefined, unrestricted. If you do want to lower it because it's getting in your way, unrestricted is probably your safer bet. If you go read on Microsoft's website about changing your execution policy, you'll see that unrestricted will still prompt you if you've downloaded it off a remote site. it'll promptly go, hey, this came from a remote site. Do you really want to run this? Whereas if you said bypass, it's not going to ask you or not. It's going to bypass all security and won't give you the extra little chance to let you know that, hey, this come from somewhere else. It was not created here on this PC. Could be dangerous. I'm not going to change the execution policy. I'm going to still leave it default. But if you're just learning PowerShell and maybe you're wanting to learn in the lab environment and send code back and forth, and you want to ignore signing your stuff for just practice, you can set it to unrestricted. Just as a FYI. I also want to go over, you can send PowerShell to remote computers. Well, as far as before we do that, let's first look at something. Let's get process. Control F5. What's get process do? Basically shows you a point in time snapshot of what task manager will be showing you of all the processes running. Cool. Hit space and hit a dash. Here's all the options I've got, all the different attributes I could add to it. One of them being computer name. And I could put in one of our PC names. There's only 2 of y'all, so y'all can check each other's computer, BB-AT-AH-ATA-106. And then Lucas, you're 16. So if I do Control F5, I can see the processes on your computer. 13. So that's kind of cool. If that failed, you'd have an issue of maybe firewall blocking or remote PowerShell remoting might not be enabled. PowerShell has to be set up to have a listener and firewall opened up to accept remote commands. Servers typically have that on automatically. I haven't remembered. I think even 2019 server has that process running automatically. But if you're wanting to do this on Windows 10, Windows 11, their default is not to allow remote PowerShell commands to come in. They're not listening. Enable PS remoting. Actually, you can do a get help, enable PS remoting. If you only want to run the one line, you can have it highlighted and hit F8. That'll run the line that your cursor is blinking on. So if my cursor is blinking right there in the middle of that line of the text, I hit F8 key. You can also highlight it and right click and run just the highlighted selection too. So configures, I scrolled up, basic synopsis of it, configures the computer to receive remote commands. So on Windows 10, Windows 11, you could just type enable PS remoting. You would of course need to be administrator before that would work. Run as an elevated prompt. You would right click your start menu and run PowerShell admin and just type enable PS remoting. That's something that only needs to be done once. Typically, if your company is needing that done, when you buy a computer, it goes through a staging area. I mean, it goes through IT first to have it joined to the domain and applications installed on it. Enable PS remoting might be one of the processes that you stage on a computer. Interesting.
Yeah, I got a call from UAMS.
Okay, so I'm just pointing that out right there to enable PS remoting. Would need to be run. Of course, the computers here in the classroom, we're all running Server 2019, so we didn't have to do it. Our Git process worked without having to type that in. I've also got the firewall opened up on these machines for domain. Now let's do something fun. Go ahead and open up Notepad. So just leave Notepad running. And I don't think any of y'all are in database class, but we can use some SQL style querying to limit down what we're viewing. So as we got process, we have several columns here. We have handles, NMP, ID, the process name and stuff. Maybe you're looking to see if people are playing Minecraft on your network. Or we'll just pretend Notepad is a application you don't need running. We've had some issues here with evaluation software being installed and people just continuing to use it for personal use, but this is not a personal entity. This is a college. So that type of software would have to be purchased. And we've had some cease and desist letters come in because faculty and students have installed stuff and left it on the computers past the 30-day trial date. So you might need to search and see if something's running and uninstall, kill it off the machines. What I can do, I can use a pipe. We learned about that in operating systems class. Output of one command into another and run it into a SQL style. I could select to view certain columns, or I could just use a where. Actually, a where object is the proper form of it. Where object. And the attribute or column name, process name, spell it right, dash like Notepad %. I guess it's just be Notepad. You can use % as a wildcard character with the like. Let's go ahead and do a Control F5. If you've scrolled up and down, you may have to scroll to the bottom because if you scroll up one line, it doesn't auto scroll anymore. So I had to scroll to the bottom. What's the output? Is it a lot shorter than it was before?
Yes. I'm selected.
So I'll see Notepad. I could also look for, Chrome or anything like that too. Chrome will show up a bunch of times. We're just playing with Notepad. It's got an ID, which is the process ID. See that ID column right there? PID. Remember we could kill stuff? Linux class shows chapter 9, I think. Go kill all. Kill all, you killed the process name, and then kill, you killed the process ID. Well, PowerShell has very similar. You do have a kill command, but it's an alias of stop-process. So let's look at stop-process. Put a dash, and I'll look to specify a computer name. I don't see it. So there is no computer name. So get process, I was able to put in a computer name and pull a computer name, but that doesn't exist with stop process. Not all commandlets are built with remote capabilities. You can still get around that though. Just to see what it does on your local computer, let's go local. Just go back to your computer, not your neighbors for now. So let's look at your process. I'm going to look at my process. Is that a different number? Run. I think it ran. Control F5. There we go. What? Is that really it? Gotta verify. So it looks like the same process ID that yours was. Details. There's my notepad. No, 11392. Okay. I guess I just cleared the screen and I forgot what the number was before. So what if we stop process -ID and you put in that process ID that's on your screen. I see my notepads down here. Stuff's in it. Here we go. Now you can see it both. So if I run this, what happened to Notepad? Should have closed Notepad on your screen.
Yeah, it did. That's crazy. I was like, wow. Gotta get back.
Yep, you can launch Notepad again. So go ahead, everybody, launch Notepad again. And now let's go ahead and pick, Lucas, you go ahead and pick my computer. You have to be AT 106 INST. And Nick, you go ahead and pick 16. And I'll pick on you. So go ahead and make sure you can see that your partner has Notepad running. So now that we've got that, I said we got a problem of we're now looking at remote. So you can't kill process ID and specified number because that's only local. So So stop process ID and that number 2348 could have not desirable effects because it'd be trying to kill something on your local machine that might potentially be running at that process ID. Probably not, but could be. So I need to, and there's no way to specify with stop process the computer name to run this on. And to get around that, there's an invoke command dash computer name. And you can type in the computer name you want it to run on, followed with script block and an opening curly bracket. And a closing curly bracket. And in between the curly brackets, the commands that you want to run on that remote computer. It doesn't matter if they're on separate lines. Once the curly bracket's set, it will do everything, but I don't need an enter anywhere else. I can only have multiple lines between or after the curly brackets before the closing. See what running this invoke command would do now. You can highlight it and tell it to run selection. Ask your partner if Notepad shuts down. I'm waiting for somebody to shut mine down.
Are you sure you want to perform stop process?
Yes. So my Notepad closed. Okay, because I haven't run. So here we go. Run. You want to enter. That was the default. Yes. So.
So A is yes to all, so. That should be the same thing as yes.
Nope. If you were a multiple, if you comma separated out, I think IDs, it would have asked you for each one.
All right.
But we're only killing one, so. You can also stop process by probably name. Yep, you can stop the process name, so you could have specified Notepad and not worried about the process ID. So just one of those, hey, kind of cool things to do.
Say if you're like playing Minecraft after you can just say stop process. Process with Minecraft. Then it just stops.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like
Now let's do something a little bit useful. Let's say we have a group of computers that you want to make sure that nobody's running a program, nobody's playing Minecraft, nobody's running Google Chrome. Go and start Google Chrome up on your computer. Nobody should be running Chrome on the machines because we have to pay for Chrome. We're making that up, of course. Imagination stuff. So let's make a variable. Programs equal. And I'm going to make a list with an @ symbol and parentheses. And this will create what's known as an array variable. So I'm going to store multiple values in one variable. And I can use comma separate them out. This is good for a small list. If you get anything really massive, then you would need to use some Active Directory and probably like pull computer names out of an organizational unit and then grab those computer names. What we're going to do, we're going to create a list of computers we want to look at. Single quotes, BB-AT AH106- and go ahead and put yours in there. I'm going to put a comma and I'm going to copy that and paste it 2 more times. Control V, Control V. I don't need the last comma. And then I can look at computer 16. And I'll also look at my computer. So a variable is going to hold 3 different computer names, comma separated out. Like I said, you could also check Active Directory, and hopefully you have computers that are organized neatly in Active Directory and organization units, and you can say, hey, pull all the computer names out of this OU. It would create an array, and then you could run through each one. But we're manually creating one. Now, do you remember how to cycle through a list? What was the function for cycling through a list? For each. So for each is the function that can cycle through the list, and you'll see it most of the time singular, called item. In the variable that's got the listing of information, in our case, was progs. So open a curly bracket, and I'm going to close the curly bracket. Couple lines down. So to cycle through a list, I can change this computer name right here now to item, because it's going to cycle through all the stuff that's in the plural progs and put it one at a time into the item variable. That way, when I run line 7, it's only pulling the first name, and then it'll go back and pull the second name and run it, and then go back and pull the third name, put it in item, and then run it. And then for each realizes that's the last, it can count how many. It's designed to count how many is here, and it knows when to stop based on how many is in your list. I also want to print the computer name. So remember, computer name is in item. I want to print it before that I get the process. And I told you to start up Chrome, right? Let's change the process to Chrome that we're looking for. So cool, get process can communicate remotely with computer name. Makes this a little bit easier. You don't have to worry with the invoke command or anything. So just control F5. It will run through, communicate with each of them, and pull out if it finds a process ID of Chrome running. And like I said, it also prints there's my computer name, 13. So 13 has Chrome running, several instances of Chrome. And then there's computer 16, because it loops again, prints the next computer name. There's the Chrome instances, and then last one prints those. Some programs are multi-threaded, meaning they'll start several editions of themselves, so that they can take advantage of the multiple cores. They can run like rendering the HTML page, rendering graphics in another one, handling your passwords and forms in another one, keeping track of the encryption and stuff in another. So that's why you see several Chrome stuff. It's how they designed it to be multi-threading and pop out into different multiple process IDs. It also kind of explains why it's so memory hungry. Replicates itself for every little thing it's trying to do. In that case, if I wanted to kill Chrome, I would be looking at that program and go, oh, that's one of those multi-threaded things, and I'll just kill the name instead of the process ID. But I just wanted to do this right here just to show you that you can run stuff remotely, create a list or something. You know, an alert might come in from NSA, the Bleeping Computer, Microsoft, one of the vendors go, hey, there's a ransomware component. It's going to show up as this process name. And you might jump in and like, okay, I got a list of all my machines and I'm going to look for that process name and see if that ransomware is running anywhere. And then go start unplugging cables to those machines so it doesn't spread any further. Or really that'd be probably need to be added into like Python scripting and networking, where that if you scanned and you found PCs, you use more of an AI thing, or that the Python can go see what ports that are plugged into on all the different switches using the software-defined networking. And then intrusion detection, the prevention, you pull out rules to block those ports as soon as you see those malicious processes. That's what AI is. You just feed it some info and it can quickly access the configuration of all your switches and routers and add those rules in to block things. So kind of cool, because you couldn't in time log into each Cisco switch and type in the command line to shut down a port. You couldn't do that. So AI goes way beyond the class, but this is a touch of what IT's heading into, or already there. Any questions?